Tony Gonzalez from Made in Metal here, and today we are going to talk to Erja Lyytinen, who is going to release a released a new CD called Smell the Roses. Hello, Erja, how are you?
Hello, I'm doing great. I just, enjoying the summer starting and with the new festivals and gigs and promoting my new album for the festival audiences. So I'm very excited and happy at the moment.
Smell the Roses mark your return after 3 years. How did the writing and recording process differ compared to Waiting for the Daylight?
Well, my latest album, well, the previous album, Waiting for the Daylight, it was written during the pandemic area, so it was very different kind of a time area than right now. So there's a lot of like uh, deep thoughts and a bit of a melancholic vibe on that album. And so whereas Smell the Roses, it's more, in a way, it's more hopeful. It's a rockier album as well, and I kind of wrote it in a quite short time of period. So almost all of the songs were written last year. So year 2024 was very inspirational for me when it comes to writing songs, and I had a lot of like ideas coming up to my mind, and I kept on recording all sorts of riffs, guitar riffs, and singing vocal parts to my cell phone. And yes, so all these ideas were just pouring out from my soul last year. And I decided in the spring 2024 that, okay, I'm gonna go to studio in the fall 2024. And we actually got the whole backing tracks for the album in the studio in 3 days with my band. So it was quite a fast process. And we did work on the songs in our sound checks when we were touring in Europe in September last year. So we quite much knew already how the songs will sound like when we went to studio and so on. But yeah, so the album came together quite fast, I would say. And I think in that way, it's also um, there's not too much of excess stuff in there. It's very um, uh, traditional rock band form in the album. So there's vocals, electric guitar, Hammond organ, drums, and bass, and that's it. Nothing too much of uh, excess stuff. Like, for instance, when I was writing Waiting for the Daylight, we add a lot of like synthesizers, and there's violins in there and lots of layers. And so this album is more straightforward and honest, and I think it's courageous as well. So I feel like as a songwriter and a performing artist, I think I've taken another step forward, which is always good.
Yes, the title track single came out January 29th with a video. What message did you intend with the line "Wake up and smell the roses"?
It's a reminder for all of us that we already have everything's wonderful. Actually, we if we would just cherish that what we have. And uh, in this world time, this time being, it's like we have all this material. A human has never had this much of stuff, and we are still not happy. We're not content. So something's not really right. And I also wanted to point out that, why do we always want more? And all these dictators and world leaders, they already have a lot, but still they want more. It's like it's never ending struggle with that. And at the same token, I always also wanted to remind myself, like, all the things that I've achieved in my life and in my career and everything that I have, that be happy about it, enjoy it, because positivity creates more positivity around of us. So that's why smell the roses, bitch.
Area, you told me this before a little, but I want to get deeper into the sound of the album. This album has a heavier sound than your previous work. How did this musical evolution come about?
I don't know. It's just during these few years, I've noticed that I've been um, trying to dig in deeper to guitar playing and the technical side of it, and you know I've been starting to practice more technical stuff with the guitar, and at the same time my sound has gotten heavier. I even changed my amplification. I still play with Fender tube amps like Super Reverb and Twin Reverb. I used to play a lot with those, but nowadays when I go play live shows, I usually play with Mesa Boogie. And also with this album and the guitar solos, I I used my Mesa Boogie amplification and I plugged it plugged my guitar straight to the amp, and I used the amplifier's distortion channel on some of my solos. So it was really like really raw and straightforward in that matter as well. So I wanted the sounds to be really organic on this album, and I think we achieved it. Like the whole album is, and the whole band sounds very organic. You know, like back in the 60s and 70s when you played the stuff in the studio and you didn't make too much of things in there, but it's just like the whole band playing at the same time in the studio and yeah.
At the same time, I have read that you said that this album has some of my most advanced solos. And tell me, how did you push your playing further?
Well, at the same time when I was recording some of the solos, like for instance for the song called Abyss, which is it's the longest song in the album. It's over 7 minutes long. It's a radio song, right?
Yes.
But yeah, well, when I was recording the solo, I was also kind of creating the solos at the same time. So if I wanted to do something different for some particular place, I just kept on practicing it until I made it. Like there's two guitar solos in Abyss, and the latter solo, it starts with these stops going down, down. The whole band does this down, down, and then I play this kind of a diminished uh, uh, lick. And I remember I wanted to play something that would kind of catch your ear, and you would go like, "What is this?" Like something uh, what I hadn't done before, you know. It's always you have to always look at the music the way you do it, you know, and because everybody has their own things and all the music has been created in a way, you know, everything's already out there, but all of us we always make our music from our own perspective. So for me that was kind of a new thing to play something quirky, uh, fast diminished licks and like with a more heavier approach and yeah, so that was a part that I was practicing quite a lot.
Abyss, Empty Hours, Going to Hell, Smell the Roses are some of my favorite songs in this recording. But in your case, which track do you feel best show the album spirit?
Oh, that is a hard question. Um, you know, Abyss is definitely the heaviest song on the album. It's probably the heaviest song I ever written so far. Uh, so I wouldn't say that it completely would describe the album, but maybe Smell the Roses, the title track. because it's kind of it's a punchy song with a punchy guitar part starting in the song, and it's quite fast paced, but it has a nice groove. I think my band is grooving there nicely, and yeah, so yeah, maybe Smell the Roses.
So early on, you studied jazz vocals and electric guitars. How did that formal training shape your style?
I've been going to different music schools since I was like 18 years old, and I've been studying in Los Angeles and Denmark and Sweden, and so I've learned a lot of different kind of styles, and that's what you had to do in the schools. You have this wide range of different styles, from pop to jazz and blues and dance music and Schlager music and all these things. So I remember in the beginning of 21st century, I was fascinated about more like jazz and poppier jazz pop music. Like my playing was softer, a bit softer back then, and I think it has just gotten heavier. Uh, the more older I get, so it's getting heavier, which is kind of fun. I was listening to heavy music since I was 13 years old. Halloween, Anthrax, Metallica, all these bands, and now I'm kind of back to that route, and Black Sabbath and Deep Purple, all those things. So it's fun to also to look back and see the different phases you've had during your career, and I think that's just the beauty of it, because I think it would be awful to say that, okay, I've done the same thing 20 times now. So I think it's nice to shake things up on each album, and that's what I'm aiming to do for my next album as well.
You have just mentioned some bands, but I would like to ask you if was there a woman in jazz, rock, or blues who influenced your attitude toward life?
Attitude toward life. Well, through the music you can hear the attitude. And I gotta say that two of my really big favorites, whom I've also had a chance to, not share the stage, but we played the same festival here in Finland in 2003. They are Coco Taylor and Bonnie Raitt. They're both like really cool performers, and Coco Taylor, uh, she had this enormous voice and really strong attitude, but I think I never really, I don't know how she was outside of stage, but I could think that she was a strong woman, but probably didn't make too much of a noise of herself, but knew her value. And same for Bonnie Raitt, she has amazing voice and she's still active playing music, and but very different and very, I would think that very humble as well. I did get to meet her back in 2003, and she was just lovely, just lovely.
Erja, I will never imagine that you will mention Coco Taylor. I know that you were in the past, you collaborate with Bonnie Raitt. I imagine that it was Bonnie Raitt, but Coco Taylor, this strong woman with
Yeah.
this dark skin and powerful voice. Wow. Yes, I like Coco Taylor. It's really impressive. But now that we mention Bonnie Raitt both, you have collaborate different legends from Bonnie Raitt to Carlos Santana. What has been the most surprising lesson for those experiences?
I think it's well, always when you get to share the stage with some world-known big stars, it's the humbleness they usually carry. Like, for instance, like Carlos Santana, it was amazing to share stage with him This was in 2018. I was supporting his band in front of 20,000 people, and Carlos watched my show, which was like amazing. And afterwards, I got to speak with him, and I was all ears listening to his advices and life experiences, and then he invited me on stage to play with him alongside with his band, and I was so humbled and so like amazed about the experience, and I was just trying to kind of, you know, not to be in the way there, but embrace that moment together, like we're there, and he's like he's a real musician, you know, and no ego stuff, and that's great, and the same vibe I also got with Sonny Landreth. I really love his light guitar playing, and he's such a great, lovely guy as well, and also Jennifer Batten, whom I had a honor to share the stages with. So there's something about these great musicians that they don't need to make a big fuss about themselves. You know, they just do what they love. You know, it's wonderful.
You have been called the queen of the slide guitar. How did you develop your technique and what drew you to this style?
I'm kind of a self-learned when it comes to slide guitar playing. And before I started to play slide guitar, I had been going to different schools and had a lot of different guitar teachers. But with the slide, it was like it was fascinating me. I was studying in a conservatory in my hometown called Kuopio, and somebody had left a bottleneck on one of the classrooms. And after a few days, it was still there. So I picked it up and I started to play with it. And I was like, yeah, this fascinates. There's something about it that fascinates me. And so little by little, I just started to, you know, practice some things with it. And at first, I was playing in a traditional tuning, like in the regular electric guitar tuning. And later on, I discovered the open tunics and started to learn with them. And later on came also the finger picks. I started to use pick in my middle finger and in my thumb, and developing this different what would you call it? Well, it's very different style than playing just a pick in your regular pick in your hands. So yeah, I've been playing, oh my God, almost 30 years of slide guitar. So it's been a nice ride, and I think there's still a lot to discover. And I usually play in open D and open G tunings, and then I might be using cabo if I want to change the key for the song or so. But it's really fascinating, and mostly it's like I play with my ear, so I just kind of I know where the notes are in the fretboard, but quite a lot I go just by my ear. So it's always an adventure.
This question made me feel more calm down because for a moment I imagine and I cannot understand that you learn the slide guitar at Sibelius Academy, because I always know that Sibelius Academy is for big studies in music. So tell me, how was your experience at Sibelius Academy?
Well, I went to music education program in Sibelius Academy, and I didn't get any slide guitar instructions from there. Let's just put it this way. But it was a really big education program, and I actually it took 12 years for me to graduate as a master's of music from Sibelius Academy, and I wrote my musical thesis about Delta blues and Son House guitar playing techniques. You know, it was a lot about resonator guitars and playing slide guitar. But yeah, I got a lot of knowledge from Sibelius Academy. I had to go to different theory lessons and a conducting lessons and a choir and history and all kinds of band sessions and lots of educational things, because that education aims to us to be a teacher in different schools or conservatories or so on. But I never really got to do any of that because I became an artist, an entrepreneur. But yeah, it was a huge program to go through, and you learned a lot of stuff in the schools. But I feel that I've learned to really play for the live audiences, being on the road and being on stage for different audiences everywhere in the world. That has taught me the most, really.
Usually, I don't watch TV, but I read that you appeared on The Masked Singer Finland last year and reached the final. How did that TV experience influence you?
It was so much fun. It was great to have this character and try to fool the judges there and so they wouldn't know who is behind the mask. And I loved that experience. It was so much fun. You got to dance a little bit and you had this little choreography and I got to sing a lot of different songs. I had these songs from Finnish pop singers, and then I sang a bit of a Metallica. I sang a song from Kate Bush, a song from Jeff Buckley, and so various different songs, and it was so interesting. And I got to change my voice, for each song, and 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 all these vocal lessons I've had in my past. I could use those techniques and just have a little role, and it was a lot of fun. I enjoyed it very much, and I got to many of the songs on my own, and I got to also suggest what kind of costume I'd like to wear, and I knew I wanted to be a skeleton. Scary but nice skeleton.
Do you think that in your rock and blues influences, are there something of the Finnish heritage?
There must be. I'm pretty sure there must be. Of course, I've been listening to British blues and rock music and American music as well since I was a kid, a teenager. So, you adapt to some of that stuff, but you always have your own cultural roots and your own way of looking at things. And then, of course, your own way of saying the English. It's if you're not born in Nashville or Memphis, you don't have that accent. You have your own accent. You can always learn that, but I think it's been nice to hear that people say it's refreshing that you have this kind of like a Nordic accent, whatever you're doing, and yeah, so there must be, right? But it's really hard to analyze it yourself. It would be easier if somebody else would be listening to your music and going like, okay, this is kind of like it's my music, it's blues rock, it's progressive, but there must be some uh, hints about other styles as well. I wrote this song a few years ago. It's called Väinämöinen Tuonelassa. It's Tuonela it's like underworld, and Väinämöinen is this shaman in this epic saga that was written by Elias Lönnrot more than 100 years ago here in Finland, and the song is based on this painting that was that got inspired by this epic saga. It's called Kalevala, and I think in that song I kind of let myself loose a bit and used more of my Finnish heritage in the song. But it's in Finnish, so that makes sense as well.
Yes. Now, when you mention, when I am listening to you, to my mind, I smile because to my mind come Bonnie Ray speaking and you speaking, and really totally different. Not only the accent, the words, yes, it's really good. But let's go to the final question. Do you have plans to take this album on an international tour?
Oh, of course, yes. We already did a tour in the UK in April, and then this year, I think it's October, November. I will be doing European tour. There's German dates and the dates in Netherlands and so on. So you can check those out from my website, erjalyytinen.com. And hopefully next year is Spain as well. So we're working on that, the Spanish dates. I've done a one tour long time ago in Spain, and I'm really hoping that maybe next year I'll have a chance to come to Spain and play the new songs for you because I love the Spanish audience. It's just uh when the first time when I came to Spain, I felt like, oh, these people, my people, because I'm not very typical Finnish. You would say that I I talk a lot and I laugh a lot, and that's how I feel that you guys are as well.
Ella, but we are here because Ana Lavallo, the Spanish woman, put us in contact. So I hope that you can come next year to Spain and Ana Lavallo can help you to this.
Yes, thanks, Anna. It's been great to work with her. She's amazing, and yeah, really
Perfect.
looking forward.
Thank you very much, Eria, for your time and your answers. So you are happier than the average people from your country.
Well, I think we probably are all kind of, people are different, uh, but um but yeah, sometimes they say that Finnish people are more down to earth and maybe a bit more quieter. So when you come to uh perform in Finland, we might be very humbled and quiet, but inside we are excited. But but I show it, that's what I do on stage as well. I show it to the people. I want them to engage with me in the music and share this moment together.
Even speaking, you have melody in your lines, in your voice. So
Oh,
I hope to see you here in Madrid in the future. I will be aware of this. As soon as I know that you will come, I will be in contact with the people to be there.
fantastic. Muchas gracias.
De nada, Eria, de nada. Que tengas una buena tarde. Nice weekend, nice afternoon.
Thank you so much.
Chao.
Ciao, ciao.